So let me see what we can do today. What does this lot hold here for us? Shall we do okay? Something that is just a little remembrance of my school days. I've titled this just Teacher, right? So here we go. There was a teacher at our school who taught geography with great enthusiasm and alacrity. She stood straight as a poker, stiff as a rod. I remember this teacher. She was very tall and very straight. Held a ruler in her hand to give the tardiest a prod. Sit up straight. Don't pick your nose. Listen carefully. I'll have you all on the silly aisles by the time it's home for tea. So out come pens, pencils, an exercise book, the atlas with a stern command for all to take a look, to see if we could find places only thought of in your mind. Exotic and enchanting lands, she brought them all to life, each picture from the atlas as sharp as a knife. Images of countries came jumping off the pages, some places new and beautiful, some still in the dark ages. Groups of little children in Africa, so dry, looking oh so solemn with brown wide open eye. Fur-wrapped people in homes of snow and ice. No, other way round. Fur-wrapped people in homes of ice and snow, travelling on sledges pulled by huskies. How they go. Women dressed in radiant silks, all colours of the rainbow. Men with turbans on their heads in a city that's called Cairo. Mountain ranges vast and big towering to the sky, the tops of them concealed by mist in clouds because they're so high. Stop, sorry. Himalayas, Alps, the highest point is Everest. Courageous climbers trying hard to climb up to the crest. The big Atlantic Ocean and Mediterranean Sea, where ships and ocean liners sail along majestically, taking people cruising, transporting oil around the world for us to use in cars and homes, keeping us from the cold. The world is very big and has many wondrous sights. And now, with all the planes and boats, we can go on many flights. But the best trip of all is what this teacher brought to me, the imagination in my mind through her geography. Yes, I remember that teacher. She was extremely tall and very stiff. You wouldn't think that somebody could be as straight and stiff as that. It didn't look like she could even bend over. Yeah. What about should we go to... We will try and keep it light-hearted today. Okay. I should have marked these, you see, because now I don't know what I've written and what I haven't. Okay, so this is a little bit of how it was at Christmas when I was a youngster. Every Christmas the visitors came to stay, bringing all sorts of good things. 2 aunts, an uncle, a grandma, and they brought boxes and parcels tied up with strings. With a yoo-hoo and well now, made it at last. What a journey, at least it kept fine. Doesn't seem like it's 12 months has gone past, and once more it's Christmas time. They bring with them a vague smell of the town, London city or bustle and glare. They say what a pleasure it is to come down and stay in the fresh country air. There's a box with a turkey as big as can be, all plucked and parcelled up tight. That's the first thing to look over and see if it's ready for cooking tonight. The boxes are emptied, parcels looked through to see what goes under the tree. This one's for Mother, this one's for Prue, and wow, there are 3 for me. Suitcases all moved upstairs from the hall. A hustle and bustle ensues to see about sleeping arrangements so all can look at each bedroom and choose. Once all is unpacked, it's time for tea, or perhaps something more alcoholic. A glance at the clock says it's only just 3, but a whiskey might cure Grandma's colic. By 6 o'clock, when everyone's rested, the men look from one and another. Itching to get to the pub, it's suggested to go for a quick one, if it's okay with Mother. I'm sent off to bed with my head full of joy, wondering what the morning will bring. Fruit and nuts in a stocking with a small toy, the usual girl's annual, and a mystery thing. Then here it is, Christmas morning. Hooray! I hear movement downstairs already. Smelling breakfast, hear baking, sizzling away, and the men saying last night's beer made them heady. At 1 o'clock sharp, the table is laid. Out comes the turkey, carved on the plates. We all sit down to a dinner well made. Christmas pud full of brandy, raisins and dates. We've all had our fill of Christmas fare. The dishes washed up, put away. Everyone finds themselves a comfy chair and presents given out without much delay. Each one opened with oohs and ahs. That's just what I wanted, you know. You are so clever to think of that. It really has pleased me so. All too soon the time comes around when they have to be on their way. So the front hall with hugs and kisses resound, and it's toodaloo till the next holiday. Yes, there's quite a lot more went on through our Christmas time at home when I was a youngster. I maybe have written about it somewhere else, but yeah, that was it. That was it. I don't know if I got anything else. It says I read about that one. I read that one the other day. I remember that. I read about the haunted house and about the ghosts. So, honestly, a lot of this is so how the years from yes, I do crass. Yes, indeed. So, okay. I read that one. That was Tim's. Right. I'll read you this one. I haven't titled it, but it's quite light-hearted, I think. Annabel Andrews. Well, what can I say? Meeting you here on the high street today. We sat side by side. Do you remember at school? You studied so hard. I played the fool. You so angelic, always so neat in your school uniform, skirt with a pleat, blazer with school badge on pocket precise, school bag, shoe bag, Gym kit concise, all in its place just when it's needed. You always ran the best, always succeeded, striving, giving you all to your friends, popular, caring, and true to the end. You were my first love, though you didn't know. I worshipped you, dreamt of your face all aglow. You who was happy, fun-loving, carefree. You never seemed bothered to look twice at me. A gangly, knock-kneed, love-struck lad. When I think of it now, I think, how sad. Well, you're still looking great. Married, I guess. Oh, are they your children? I must confess, I always imagined you'd make a great mother. Looking after others you did with no bother. So it's all second nature to someone like you. Neat home, neat children, neat husband too. I'd never be able to keep up with that. My place is a tip and you can't swing a cat. But it's mine, and I'm happy with this life that I live. Come and go as I want, and no one to give me earache if I'm late out on the town. I can bring my mates home, let them settle down, stay the night if they want, or leave me alone. Doesn't matter, whatever, it's my chill out zone. Well, it's nice to have met you once more. Just to say, I've thought about you most every day, but I knew you and me were a definite non-starter. It was all just a daydream. You were so much smarter. So I wish you the best with your neat family. Cheerio and good luck. Me, I'm off for my tea. There you go. So how are we doing? Oh, just trying to see. I can remember mainly which ones I have read. Okay. Village life of an evening. This is a still cloak-wrapped darkness over the town. A lone tom-cat on the prowl. Shops all closed and shuttered down. On the bare branch, a watchful owl. Houses in rows, each side of the street. Windows curtained and dark. Tomcat wondering who he will meet as he makes his way to the park. James the postie just settled to bed, dreaming of sweetheart Jenny. Who would have thought she'd turn his head, he who said he'd never marry? Schoolmaster retired, and wife flannel-nightied under the duvet this past hour. Him dreaming of travelling, she being invited to the palace for a knighthood. What an honour. The owl gives a hoot and ruffles his wing, settling to a long vigil this night. 'Twill be a while for the dawn chorus to sing, and the sun bringing morning light. Badgers and foxes in the woods, cool and still, foraging for their young, braving the unknown down from the hill, sniffing out snacks through the town. A bright glow from the nightclub, open till 3. Music floats away up the street. Neon sign flashing so all can see the place to come and stamp your feet. Bouncers guard the door, alert and ready, scanning all with a hard-faced glare, barring the way to those who aren't steady. You need a tie to go in there. The scavenging cat down the back alley knocks the dustbin, making it clatter. A window's thrown open. It's old Colonel Farley, squinting to see what's the matter. Then it's time for the nightclub to close its doors. The revellers come tumbling out. Some quite unsteady, some fall on the floor, some quiet, and some with a shout. Taxis rev up to take each one home. Passengers dozing in back seats. Front doors creak open, tiptoe through the room, or a quick tip to the kitchen for eats. At last, all are quiet, and the sombre dark night lulls every last one to sleep. And while all are slumbering, tucked up tight, on the horizon, the dawn light peeps. Behind bedroom curtains, alarms start to ring. Muffled grunts and murmurs are heard. A kettle is singing, a timer goes tring, and the owl makes way for the dawn bird. In no time at all, the town greets the day. Post, milkman, paper boy, all. Everyone off to their own working way, and the children to the school bell's call. So this is the way we will leave this town, all hustle and bustle in the sun. The rabbits, twitchy-nosed, watch from high on the down, the people whose day's work has begun. And if yeah, hey, love, we're gonna. I'm really very, very pleased that maybe it is nice. You're happy to listen to it. I think those two. Right, this one I will read. This started off. Now it's a shame I didn't date this because I started this when they had this massive volcano erupt in Iceland. A name I would not even try to pronounce, but I know that's why I started to write this, because it was all on the news for quite a while. What do you know? We're all in a mess. What has happened? You could never guess. A volcano in Iceland is blowing a fuse, and now there's no airplane that we can use. It's surely a most spectacular sight, nature showing us her majestic might. Fire and ice make an explosive mix, putting us all in a terrible fix. A volcano eruption, throwing up its debris, a cloud plume of ash shown to us on TV. With the help of a west wind blowing our way, nothing goes skyward to the traveller's dismay. People on holiday can't get back home. All aircraft grounded, none will be flown. Airports deserted, planes on the ground. No solution unless the wind turns around. The scientists all stand and scratch their heads. Predictions are useless, it's just guesswork instead. How long will it go on? Ask the powers that be. And all in one voice answer, don't ask me. The last time this happened, many years ago, it took nearly 2 years before the end of the flow. Apparently, the ash cloud went right around the world, and people weren't flying, weren't so concerned. But Europe has the same problem as well. The clouds reach them too, increasing the swell of holidaymakers trying to get home, feeling more and more stranded as their money is gone. Sleeping in airports, eating there too. Waiting, that's all they can do. The holiday was great, a break from the norm. No one thought it would end, fed up and forlorn. And that was it, it ends there. So yeah, that was roughly this massive ice volcano Iceland, and it caused havoc. The airplanes couldn't fly. People couldn't get back home. I don't. Do you know, I've got some really interesting. Yes, I've read that one. What have I got down here? I've got something tucked away in the back of this thing here. Melody, hi Melody. Abu, hello, hello. Sorry if I'm not picking you up. Oh yeah, that's quite a. I can't read some of these. I can't read. I don't know what was in my head when I was writing some of this? Okay. Okay, this is maybe a sort of a bit of a parenting thing. What do we do to our children today? If our life is stressed, so are they. From the time that they're first held, from when they are grown, a nurturing love is a must to be shown. They're the next generation, the continuing life, mankind's future army, in peace and in strife. Life is confusing for all these young minds. We're a nation of mixtures and rules of all kinds. Multicultural, they call it, everyone side by side, working for betterment, working with pride, and to live a free life with a smile on a face of a child who is feeling secure in their place. Cherish these young ones, show them the way. They should have peace and happiness every day, so they can show love to their children and friends. Promote joy and harmony, make war have an end. What a life all could live, what a world it would be. So let's start with the young ones and live happily. There you go. Abu, do you think so? Thank you very much for that. If I had more time, I would probably be still writing, but I stopped writing quite a while ago. Then I just looked through some of these. But I do find myself actually, funnily enough, having quite a nice time of reading them through every now and again, even if I sort of more or less know them. Yeah. I don't know if I've read. I will read this one and I will make this the last one. Oh my gosh, I've been on here over. I usually only think I should do about 10 minutes or so, but I'm already double that. Okay, one last one. I can hear rain on my window pane. It's a wet night out tonight, so I'll stay here in this comfy chair and doze in the warm firelight, floating away to a far-off place where the sun is warm and touches your face, with fingers of gold and breath of yellow, making your body melt and mellow, where the air is filled with far-off cries of ice cream vendors passing by, the tangy taste of salt and sea, and children's voices in rhapsody, where blue sea water laps the shore, inviting you to come explore the coolness with your toes and hands, leaving damp footprints on the sand. Blue sky above, no cloud in sight, black sky with stars that glisten bright, showing this place in surreal light. But no warm sun, the air grows cold, and at its loss, paradise grows old. Then, with a shudder and a shake, the mood is gone, and I'm awake. There you go. We will leave it there. And as it's going along, I'm going to be hard pushed to find you much more to read, I think. But it is that for the day. Thank you, everybody. Really. And maybe I will get some inspiration at some point to start up writing some of this poetry stuff again. Anyway, thank you, everybody, for coming along. It's been great. And I did say earlier on, if anybody wants to chat, if anybody wants a subject to talk about, I am more than happy to do so. You and Arab and poetry is in our roots. Oh yes, Abu, yeah. I don't know. Do you know? I love poetry. I will read a poetry book. Well, I have quite a few actually. It's surprising. I surprised myself. I was turning out some stuff the other day, and I found about 3 books of poetry. But hey, Wills, when I was a youngster, and again, this is something I've said before, I didn't have fantastic themes for Christmas. I had more practical stuff. Read about, yeah, Abu, yeah. I know poetry can be beautiful. That's something I need to find out. I had poetry books as Christmas presents. I know my mother bought me, I think it was a book of Tennyson poems, and then a book of Longfellow poems. That was the one that wrote. I always remember Tennyson for Hiawatha. And then also I had a book of all of Shakespeare's stuff. When I think about it now, I'm not sure what youngster would be so enthralled to have a book of poetry or a book of Shakespeare nowadays for a Christmas present. And that was basic. It's an American legend, Tennessee Williams. And Tennyson Idocras, Tennyson, not Tennessee, Tennyson, Tennysson. Do you know what? I should try and look out those books. Yeah, that's too dark. Do you think so? Don't know Idocras. No. It's probably my pronunciation. Alfred Lord Tennyson was a great poet back in the day. At the moment, as much as I liked his stuff, I cannot think of one. Nothing comes to mind of what he wrote. And I'm trying. Who wrote the Kubla Khan poem? Did Xanadu and Kubla Khan a greatly pleasure dome decree? Whoever wrote that. But there you go. Sue, you know Tennyson Idocras, yes. I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do. Though, like I say, I cannot at the moment think of one poem that he wrote. But now you see, I'm going to have to think about trying to find my books out. They're probably stuffed away. Do you know what they say? If you move house and you box up loads of stuff and then you put that box somewhere, obviously like we did when we moved here because we didn't have room for from stuff from our house in here. So I've got boxes stashed out the back, and they do say that if you don't go to that box to take out something that you want to use within 6 months, that you don't need that stuff at all. Well, I've got boxes out the back that have been there for 30 odd years and have not been opened. I know back along I did look at a couple of boxes that I happened to get my hand on. And things bring back memories, don't they? Because I opened this box and it was some clothes I had, and I thought, oh my gosh, I can remember wearing that. And then and I can remember wearing that. Hey, am I well read? Well, I used to read. See, again, when I was brought up Idocras, there was nothing else. And again, something I've said so many, many times. The house we lived in when I was a youngster, from about the age of 2, nearly 3, up to the age of 15, we had no electricity. no television. We had a radio, and I remember we used to have the radio on for the news in the evenings and some of the comedy shows that were on. And Sundays was always, oh man, again, my memory is not serving me well today. We used to have where people would write in and ask for songs to be, and records to be played for the servicemen that were still overseas, particularly the ones that were in Germany. I can't remember what that was called. And I can remember listening to that every Sunday while we were eating dinner. And basically, and also being an only child, I had to amuse myself a lot of the time, well, nearly all the time. So it was reading, writing. I used to like art as well, paint and draw. I used to do quite a lot of that. And again, it goes back to what I said the other day. What you don't have, you don't miss. And I was quite happy. I think I was happy enough through my upbringing. I had good parents. I had nice parents. I had an absolutely fantastic father. He was one of the best fathers you could ever want. Brilliant dad. And my mum was the one that could be a bit spiky at times. Very spiky. We've fallen out many times. But we fell out more. I feel we fell out more when I was that much older. I think we clashed more then, because I was growing up by then in the 60s and the 70s, and my mum was still in the Victorian 1800s. Though she wasn't born until the early 1900s. But her upbringing just, she didn't move along. Whereas I hope I sort of moved along a bit as time's gone on and things have changed. But you can always sit down and think back and think how maybe you could have done something different. Sometimes I know I probably antagonized my mother. Yeah. But it's like every youngster, isn't it? You get to a certain age where you need to learn things for the best. Did you put your parents, did you, Wills? Oh, yeah. Well, I think I did. I had a certain period in my life when I did as well. I put my parents through hell. I upset them very, very badly. But by then, I was a teenager, and like all teenagers, I knew what I wanted, and I knew what I wanted to do, and it did not gel with my parents at all. But yes, absolutely, Wills, you turned out okay, and I'm hoping I turned out okay as well. I maybe, like all teenagers, I was a bit headstrong, but extremely determined. I would not be put off from something that I had in my life and I wanted to do. I would not be put off whatever. And even though it upset my parents very badly, to the extent that my father, as I say, he was an absolutely fantastic father, and I know I hurt him very badly. He didn't talk to me he ignored me. For 15 years, he ignored me. He wouldn't acknowledge me at all. That's how badly I hurt him. Oh my gosh. Do you know what I say, Wheels? You can try to put your parent. Yeah. Yeah, it was sad in a way, and it was my fault. It was what I did, but also what I couldn't make anybody understand was that I was happy and I knew what I wanted to do, and I also knew what the outcome of things would be, but I still wanted to experience that, and I still wanted to do it, and I could not make my parents understand that at all. And in a way, parents, you've got to be a bit understanding of your children, especially when they get to these teenage years, when, nowadays everything is put in front of these kids. Sometimes some of the things I think I see and I think, oh my gosh, generate. It's difficult, isn't it? Do you know there is an advert on our television, and it was on last night, and I'm thinking to myself, am I getting like my mother in being too sniffy about things? But it's an advert about children managing money, and it's an advert for the bank, and they've got this little girl going into the bank to put some money and get a bank account, and they have dressed her up like a 20-year-old, and she's about 12. And I think to myself, no, no, dress her up like a 12-year-old. Why do you have to dress her up like, she's nearly 10 years older than what she really is? But it is how, I suppose how things are. Maybe I don't catch the idea of this advert so much, but I must admit, that keeps coming at me every time I see this advert on the television. It's probably me just being very silly, but yeah, youngsters, they grow up fast enough without having to push them on any faster. What years would my grandparents have lived? My grandparents, my mother's father, I've got a poem about him. I sort of shy away from reading it at the moment because I get very upset when I read it, even though it's my own words. My grandfather lived to just under 100 years old. Yeah. See, things back then, we're now talking about the 1800s, Wills, and things then, you see, were coming up to, it was sort of the Victorian age and everything. And also that set of grandparents had, if I remember rightly, my mother, there was her, and there were 7 children there altogether, and a mixture of boys and girls. And then it was probably very, very difficult to, that was why then, I think I was saying yesterday, my mother went out when she was 14 years old to go to work as a scullery maid in the big house, as they called it. That was what they did. Bonus stream gun, do you get Og fan? Yeah, now I've started this, you see. This is me. I can talk like you wouldn't believe. A scullery maid, Wills, is the lowest job you can get, working in a kitchen. Then in the Victorian days, they had the big houses with all the smart, well-moneyed people lived in. And of course, these set of people, they didn't do anything for themselves. They hired people to do it for them, even wash them and dress them and do their hair and everything. A bit like Cinderella or Snow White. Yes. And of course, you had, if you could ever get it, there's a series, and I don't know if you can get it over in the US, a series called Downton Abbey. And it is exactly what I'm talking about. It is set in the era where there's these moneyed people live in this big house, and they've got all these servants. They've got a footman. to look after the gentlemen, and they've got a lady's maid to look after the ladies, and they've got the people down in the kitchen to cook their meals. And a scullery maid was a girl who worked down there and who washed the dishes, scrubbed the floor, kept everything clean. And it was quite in a way, an arduous job for a 14-year-old. Not a job that I would like to see a 14-year-old do today. Thank you, Hog Fan, thank you. But that was what my mother did. And I would presume some of her other brothers and sisters did it well. I know most of the boys went into the services, because then we're talking about the First World War and then through to the Second World War, and most of them, she wouldn't have been treated well. She would have been treated as not anything better than a dog. She wouldn't. But the thing was as well, I know from very little, yes, Wills, I know from just the very little occasions when my mother has made remarks about something, that her mother, my grandmother, was an extremely hard woman, and she wouldn't have taken anything from my mother if my mother went home complaining about what had happened to her at work. She would have just said to her, your thing, get on with it. And I know from one or two, and I think that made my mother quite hard, quite stuck in her ways as well. And as I say, between her and my dad, she was the one that would dish out any punishment if it came my way, and it came my way quite often. And I can remember she would always get into trouble from my dad. My dad would come home, because my mum's favourite punishment for me was to put me upstairs in my bedroom. And I used to come out of my room and go into her bedroom. It was a big bedroom. It was in the front of the house. And the windows were quite low down, came quite low down to the floor, so that I could sort of sit on the floor and put my chin on the windowsill and look out the window. And there wasn't always very much to see, because all we had was the fields with the cows in it and the road going up the way. Have I got siblings? I had a half brother. My dad was married before he met my mum, obviously. My dad was married before his wife died. She had my brother. I call him my brother, though my two aunts, I mean, that's another side of the family that are a bit, I can't use the word weird, but they were very family orientated, and any outsider was not really welcome. That's why they didn't really like my mum, and they certainly didn't like me very much, even though when it was only me left, when my mum and parents had gone, they always would invite themselves down to come and stay with me in our house, even though, you had to be very careful and watch what was said behind your back. Yes. Yeah. About my aunts. Oh, man. Yeah. No, so just come back to my siblings. Yes. So my dad had him and his first wife, they had a boy. And then, of course, she died when he was a baby. And my aunts brought him up all their life. They brought him up. Well, obviously, until he was old enough and got married. There's an awful lot of history behind all of them. He used to come down and stay with us at holiday times, because he was at school, though he was I'm trying to think how much older he would be. I've got a photograph of him somewhere. But he was still at school, and then he went on to what was then called technical college, because he came along to be he was in civil engineering, so he went to like technical college where he learned all about that sort of stuff. He used to come down to I reckon he was probably about 10 years or so older than me. I can remember him coming down to stay with us when school was out. And yeah, we got on well. We got on okay. He unfortunately isn't around anymore. But his wife is, and I haven't heard from her for a while. But she did phone me up the other day. But of course, she's of an age now. So there's 7 years between me and her. So she's close to 90 now, getting close to 90. But that was the only sibling I had. And as I say, didn't see him that much, but we got on well, and he got on well with my mum. I can remember my mother was always more than happy to have him come down and stay with us. But it was still a bit of a weird setup. I'm not quite sure how it worked out. I mean, because my dad, he left London and he came down this way. So he must have left the aunts and that with a baby at the time to look after. Yeah, again, this goes back again to what I said before. I would so love to know a little bit more about the background of our families, the good and the bad. I would not, it would not worry me at all to hear any bad side of anything. But Whitney, hey, hello. But yeah, I do I'm very strongly of a mind that there was a lot gone on that I don't know about, and I never will. I think my mum was a lad in her age, and that's why sometimes it used to get me a little bit when she would have a go at me when I was a youngster about some of the things I was doing. When I think now, I don't think she was any better than that when she was a youngster. I know she had to work when she was 14, but I think when she came out of that, I think she had her way. She had her time. Yeah. No one ever talked about it on my dad's. Your grandfather on my dad's side had two families at the same time. Your grandfather. Oh my gosh. That sounds interesting, Wills. He was a real was he really? Yeah, do you know? My dad, no. I have some letters from my grandfather who was killed in the First World War. That's my dad's father. And cheating on his wife because you never knew the second. No. Yeah. It must be quite hard, though, to manage two separate lives, isn't it? Go to one and then come back home to another. That must take some working out. Honestly. No, I got these letters that my grandfather wrote to my grandmother. That was my two aunts' mother. This is their father I'm talking about. And of course, I never knew him. I wasn't even around. I find the letters extremely heartbreaking, but I also read in between the things that were said in that letter, I really don't want to think like it, but I don't think I would have liked him if I knew him from from the tone of his letters and what he was saying. I don't think I would have done. And that saddens me very much. Yeah. And two families, yeah, wills. Like I say, it must have. Families are, yeah, they are quite challenging. In as much as you do to try and, even with our lot now, I mean, it's so darn difficult to gel with everybody, you know. This is, yes, wills. Yeah, you ever know the no, you don't. This is it, and this is what I say. It would be so nice to know. Sometimes I very often think I would have loved to have known more about my families. And I don't care, good stuff or bad stuff. I don't care about the bad stuff. It's just nice to know it. And I would not put a downer on anybody or be against anybody just because something wasn't as the same as how I was when I was a youngster. People were looking at me when I was a youngster and stuff I was doing, and I was the bad girl of the town. I was, well, phew, but that's how things go. But I always said with my two, as much as you try to tell them at home the right ways and the wrong ways of things, like you say in Wheels about you getting into the crowd that you got into, kids will go to school and they will find the worst group of pupils ever to join in with because they are something different. They're something that is, wow, this looks okay, They don't think about the good and bad side of it. And everything that you try to teach them when you're at home with them, it just flies out the window as soon as they go to school. So, this is something, I think that at the time you're not made aware of until, I wasn't anyway until I was older. Then I thought, oh my God, all the things I tried to tell to my two, and they'd still go out and do it. Yeah. You had a good, and those other kids had homes that weren't strict. Absolutely. But he also knows what his life is like. Yeah. Yeah, this is, but you're, sorry, no one. I'm just catching up, and your aunt wouldn't tell my cousins who her dad was. That is a shame. That is such a shame. I feel that is a shame. You know, it is so nice if people will know who their parents are. If they're not with the parent that is possibly not their biological parent, it is nice to know who it is. We got again, I'm going back to on our television, we have a program that comes on every now and again. It's called Long Lost Families. And there's a couple of television people. They've got the right resources to go to, and if somebody comes along to them and says there was a woman wanted to come and find her sister. She knew she'd had a sister that had been given away when she was born, and she was trying to find her. And these people found her sister, but the sister had oh God, she was in a bed. It's not multiple sclerosis; it's something else. But she was practically immobile, and she had been since she was more or less since she was a baby. But she was savvy enough to know that she had family and she wanted to meet them as well. It was so sad. But it's incredible the reaction that people get when they've met a family member that they perhaps didn't know about or knew about but didn't know where they were. Yes, I must stop as well. My husband will be up any minute as well. Yeah. I hope it all goes well, Will. I'm sure it will be fine. And you will have a really lovely place when it's all done. I think you will be, I hope you will be pleased with everything that's done for you. You keep me posted, absolutely. I'll be back tomorrow with the Dark Soul stream. And yes, you take care too. If you're traveling anywhere, driving anywhere, take care, because you're probably all right, but it's the other people that are on the road. Thank you, no one. You know, this started off as just two or three of these little poems that I've written, and that was all I was doing. But yesterday and today, it seems to have turned into like a bit of a chatathon, or whatever you'd like to call it. But I must go in a minute. At the moment, just before I go, if anybody's interested, I have got the illustrious US president in front of me on my television here. He's coming to see us. That'll be fun, won't it? Anyway, yeah, I got to go. It's coming up now. It's 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and my husband will be shutting up shop. And he'll want to come up and know what I've been talking about. Nosy devil. Anyway, no, he's not really. Thank you, everybody. I'd better go. Otherwise, I stay here for another hour. Thank you for coming along. And yeah, lovely chat with you all. I'll be back tomorrow. Excuse me. I'll be back tomorrow. Now, I am really got to do something that I should have done a couple of days ago. And that's the laundry. Our laundry basket in the bathroom there is getting much too full. I don't know where it comes from when there's only two of us. But here we go. I really have got to get that sorted out and work out what we're going to have for tea. So, stupid mundane jobs, honestly. Never mind. We'll be back tomorrow. Hey. Thanks, everyone. I'm gonna press the button now. Yeah. See you tomorrow.